6 programs that we offer here at the IEI throughout the year, starting in the fall semester and wrapping all the way through around into the summer.
Did you do that or did I?
I clicked.
Don't, hold on. Me. Great.
Why isn't it working? Do I have to use this? I guess. All right. This isn't working, Linz. Pardon me? 6:30-ish. I mean, we can end earlier if there are not a lot of questions, right? So what I plan to do is give you a quick walkthrough about the competitions. So if you're interested in entering, you can learn about the process, the resources that are available. Okay. Well, I'll use this in the meantime. No, it's going backwards again.
It's not. I put that next.
Oh. Okay. Okay. So are you clicking? Is that working?
Not anymore.
Okay. All right. So this is the 25th annual competition, right? Which is pretty good. We're celebrating our 25th year. And this competition is for the Temple community, which is students, both undergraduate and graduate students, faculty, and staff. And alumni, most importantly, is our alumni as well. If you are new to entrepreneurship, whether it's your first time or whether you already have a business and you're thinking of getting extra funding, this is a great way to get started. So it's a good way to start your entrepreneurial journey. And, you know, everybody has ideas, right? Not just students from Fox, but our programs are open to all majors in all of the 17 colleges and schools within the university. So we welcome you with open arms. We want you to be part of the program and take advantage of all the resources we have here for you. In terms of who's eligible to enter, again, anyone from the Temple community, you have to have received less than $5,000 in any funding from competitions, less than $25,000 in any institutional funding, you know, capital funding. And we've expanded the eligibility now that you can be up to 5 years old. All right, your idea, your company can be up to 5 years old. And then all of the finalists this year will be actually participating in a live pitch. So in previous years with COVID, we had all of the finalists doing recorded video pitches and the judges doing everything virtually. This year, we're going to actually do the event here, live, pitching to the judges and to a live audience, which is going to be pretty exciting. Key dates for you to know. So on the 23rd, the competition portal is going to open. What that means is on Startup Tree, which is the platform that we use, the software that we use here in the IEI and at Temple for all things entrepreneurial, we're going to be opening up the portal. You can go there now on Startup Tree. You can see all the information about the competition, the key dates, things that I'm going to be talking about. But the portal isn't open for you to actually start creating your application to the competition. Instead, what we would like you to do is we'd like you to pre-register, and I'll talk about that in a second, but that lets us know that you're interested in competing. It makes sure you get on our mailing list so that we can get you the information you need and so that you're reminded about the upcoming programs. The submission deadline is October 19th. So you have over a month to work on your idea, refine it, evolve it, do your research, and then put together your submission. On November 4th is the finals, or I'm sorry, is when the finalists are announced. And then on the 17th of November, we're going to be doing the live pitch competition. And again, it'll be here, live and in person in the 1810 Accelerator. Prize money over $5,000 in cash prizes. The grand prize will be $1,500. We have 2 tracks, an upper track and an undergraduate track. Each of those tracks have a first and a second place with $1,000 and $500 cash awards. Then we have special awards, the People's Choice Award, which is voted on by people at the competition, during the competition as it's taking place. We have a Global Innovation Prize, and we have the Digital Innovation Award as well. So a lot of money that's available for people to win. And also that money can be used for anything. You do not have to use that money to launch your business. You can use that money to do laundry, pay your rent, whatever you'd like to do. The Digital Innovation Award was new last year, and it's a $1,000 award with the potential for them to award 2 $1,000 prizes. And they provide additional mentorship. If you decide you want to enter the Be Your Own Boss Bowl, they can help you with your idea there. They have access to the Digital Innovation Foundry Lab. And then also they have additional resources available for you to help you with your technical idea. Their criteria for their award is, number one, it's got to be digitally focused. It's got to have a problem with a real business or societal a problem to be solved. And they want to make sure that this is something practical. So they're not looking for a flying car idea. They're looking for something that the technology exists. It could be very cutting edge, but it's something that they think is deserving of the attention and the award, and then they'll help you with that. All right, how we rate the submissions, it's pretty easy. There are really these 6 sections that you have to focus on for your submission. So we start with an elevator pitch, which is a 30 to 60 second summary pitch of your idea. What's the problem you're solving? Who are you solving it for? How are you different and better? And then we ask you to go a little deeper in defining what the opportunity and the problem is, who you're solving that problem for. The next section is the competitors and status quo. How are people solving the problem today? What other competition is out there? How do you stack up against that competition? What's your solution? What is it? How does it work? What is its strengths and its weaknesses? And then customer, user, stakeholder impact. So certainly your idea is going to have an impact on the customers or users, but also what other stakeholders, what other partners, people in the supply chain, how might it impact other competitors as well? And then plans for addressing unknowns and challenges. So this is an early stage competition. We don't expect you to have all the answers to all of the questions that judges might ask. But what we do want you to do is to have spent some time identifying those areas where you know you don't have all the answers, and then think a little bit about, well, how would you go get those answers? What are the steps you're going to have to take? What's your plan to go try to solve those challenges, all right? And to get answers to those questions. Any questions? Okay. In addition to, or part of this entire program, we offer a series of workshops. The first one is going to be next week on 9/21, and that's discovering your entrepreneurial opportunities. So if you're planning to enter the idea competition, you may have an idea already. That's great. But if you don't, that's fine too. This is a good workshop to come to. We're going to have a guest speaker who's going to be here, and he's going to be focused on helping you try to identify opportunities, problems that you might want to solve, and then you could use that as your submission for the competition. The next workshop up is evolving your ideas, and then the last one is on understanding and leveraging the competition, because it's not necessarily a bad thing to have competition, and there are ways that you can actually use that to your advantage. It's all on Startup Tree. No, it's actually around the space here. There's a sign up for Startup Tree, okay, where you can join the platform. And it's pretty easy to join. I'm going to talk about Startup Tree in a minute. So hang on and I'll get to that. And then the deadline for submissions is October 19th at 11:59. And I do mean 11:59. There's always a last minute rush. People they decide they're not going to actually upload their entry until 11:50, and then they find out they have software problems, their battery on their laptop went dead, and every excuse under the sun. So don't wait till the last minute. Our guest speaker to kick off the workshop series next week is Max Ringelheim, and he's the co-founder of the company Funky Duck. And Funky Duck was the company that took the hoverboard fad and went viral with it. All right, so back in 2015 and 2016, and many of you may have had hoverboards back then, but that was the hot item. That was the hot Christmas present. And he took his company with just a few moves that they made and had this thing go from 0 to 1,000 overnight. And so he's going to be here to talk about how to identify opportunities for new ideas. Other key resources. So an important part of developing your idea is mentoring. We have expert mentoring available to you. Our e-strategists, we call them, have hours available on Startup Tree. You can go in, you can search for them. There's over 95 mentors on the platform. You can request a meeting, request a meeting with them. It's a really simple process to book that meeting. All of the mentor meetings right now are all being done virtually on Zoom or by phone. And then in addition to the expert strategist hours, we have 2 special mentoring events. One is with the ESA, our Entrepreneurial Student Association, and that's a peer mentoring session here from 12 to 1. You come in, you pitch their ideas to the group, and you get feedback. It's a great way to get a whole bunch of different perspectives on your idea and on your pitch. And then on the 17th, we have a special expert mentoring night. That will be probably virtually on Zoom, and you'll jump on Zoom. We'll have a number of breakout rooms with mentors in each room, and you can bounce from breakout room to breakout room to talk to as many mentors as you'd like to get feedback on your idea. All right, the live pitch event I mentioned is the 17th. This is the registration code. So we ask you to pre-register for the competition. Like I said, it gets you on our list. We can make sure that you get access to a shared resources folder. In that folder is going to have documents that describe the eligibility, the process for submitting. There's a guide there with tips and tricks on how to think about your idea and how to create a really good submission. Although the guy that's here with us tonight can tell you all about that as well. Encourage you to join our space here, the 1810 Accelerator space. You're sitting in it. This is a members only space. You can't get in unless you've joined, and it's open to anyone in the Temple community. So we'd encourage you to join, sign up. It gets you access in here, get you access to our programs. Startup Tree. So you asked the question about how do we find these events. On the Startup Tree platform, which is where we're promoting all of our events. It's where we run all of our competitions. It's where you find mentors and can book mentoring appointments. It's where you can interact with not just students here from Temple University, but you can interact with students all across the country. So there are a number of universities across the country that use this platform. Just here in the Philadelphia region, Temple uses it, Rowan University uses it, Drexel uses it, and I know Penn was looking into getting Startup Tree. And so you can connect with over 1,000 people that are on our platform on Startup Tree here at Temple. But you also can go global and connect to people at Cornell, UC San Diego. I'm trying to think who else has it. I don't know, I'm blanking out. But there are a number of universities all over the country. And you can use it like LinkedIn. So it's like LinkedIn for entrepreneurs. You can reach out and connect to people, message them, and get help from them. And the other resource we have here available for you, and by the way, Startup Tree is free, and this is free, and that's LeanStack. So LeanStack is a stage-gated, self-paced curriculum. And don't let the word curriculum scare you off. It's really just a way of getting your feet grounded in the world of entrepreneurship. So it will help you learn the foundations, learn a lot of the terminology, learn some of the methodology about how you identify critical assumptions and how you go about testing and validating those assumptions. It's a great tool to use, and we encourage you to sign up for that as well. Again, just some more key dates that we talked about. That's just really a repeat. Don't forget to pre-register. And then this, I actually should put this at the end. Where is Ethan's slide? Did you move it? All right, that's okay. So anyway, let me go back to this. All right. So where is our presentation? There we go. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you a very special person, somebody I've known for 4 or 5 years now, 6, 7 years. Oh my God, that's hard to believe. 7 years. So tonight we have with us Ethan Berg, a Fox alum. He was an E-ship major, right? Came to the IEI and has been one of the most involved students and now alumni that we've had in the IEI over these past 7 years. Ethan has distinguished himself in that he kept at this business, and he's going to talk about the pivots he's had to make, but he's kept at this and entered competitions for years. And last year, he really broke through. So last year, he was the grand prize winner of the Innovative Idea Competition here at Temple. But then he also went on and ended up taking grand prize in our Be Your Own Boss Bowl in the spring. So he really distinguished himself. I don't know of any other person in our history that was actually a dual grand prize winner in the same year. So that's pretty good. And so I'm really happy to invite him up. So come on up, Ethan. And I don't know if we're going to pass this back and forth. Okay. I can talk about it. All right, yeah, we're going to try to. You can try. I'm losing my voice. All right, so I'd like to start off. I mean, I think it would be great for Ethan to just start off by telling you a little bit about his business, what it is today, and then we're going to take you back 7 years, and we'll talk a little bit about his journey of how he got to today, and in particular, some of the things that were milestones, like I said, the pivots along the way, and also the different kinds of help and resources he took advantage of when he was here, that helped him get to this point in his journey. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So we're building in the metaverse for anyone that is interested. Does anyone use Canva? I figured, I'm assuming Wix people know, right? We're doing that for the metaverse. So we've been building a no-code platform where you can create your own virtual experiences with no code whatsoever. It takes under an hour. So I mean, that's kind of the big picture, I guess, of what we've been building. But I've been building that since 2019. So pre-COVID, pre-Facebook calling themselves Meta and claiming the space as their own. So, I would say I kind of had some foresight on building that. But while I was,
yeah, well, why don't you start with, so you were a student here at Temple, right? And
I graduated 2020, May 2020. So peak of COVID. So I'm sorry for all of your experiences starting here. If that's been affected, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. And so how did you come up with your first idea? I mean, what was the first year you entered the idea competition?
I've been entering since freshman year. So 2016, I never won until last year happens. So I've had many ideas over the years. Like this wasn't the first one that I submitted, but it was definitely the one that stuck the most. Yeah, that would.
Okay. And so what got you started? Did you always think you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Well,
I mean, I was a dual major with entrepreneurship and risk management. I dropped risk management sophomore year because instead of studying for finals, I figured out that the cafe in the study lounge closes. Anyone that's out here, please go do it. I sold coffee to everyone. Just go to Dunkin', buy a box of Joe, $3-4 a cup. Very easy to make money until they kick you out. So because everyone else was studying, I didn't study. I ended up dropping that major and focusing because clearly that was something I was most interested in, which was just building upon my own ideas.
Okay. And so,
oh yeah, I wouldn't say you should. That's not illegal. I didn't mean it like, I mean, they didn't like that someone was monetizing on their property and not giving them a cut, but I saw it as a huge opportunity because everyone buys coffee. You can't, as you know, you leave your stuff there, you're not going to get it. It's gone when you get back. So it's not like you're leaving it in the spot. So the only way to get coffee is to pick your stuff up, walk 10 minutes to 7-Eleven or all the way to Dunkin', which isn't even 24/7, and then you lose your spot. So during midterm and finals week, I will say big opportunity for there in the library, not going to lie.
So when you first decided you were going to enter the competition, how did you go about it? Like, if you think about those early days of when you entered the competition, and then compare it to what it was like last year when you entered the competition, what changed?
It was definitely a lot easier. Yeah, I'd say over time you get used to it. Like I Google Drive. I'm assuming everyone uses. I have document after document of every submission I've ever made. Which is well over 100 at this point. So literally when you make a new one, all you kind of do is go back to the ones that you remember was like, oh, that was a really good one. And you kind of like copy and then you make it a little bit better. So I'd say like your first submission will not be good, and that's okay. I'd say just the goal is to learn and get the feedback that you need so you can make it better over time, and that it will just constantly improve. Well, and you have it still after the competition's over. So once you submit, you never get your answers. So, I think do you send the answers out to everyone? No, but that's because I had a Google Doc with it. So I think that it's just important to have the repository just because you never know when you're going to end up needing like, oh, I wrote something really good there. It's very easy to find because it's right there. Definitely use OneDrive.
Yeah, and let me just elaborate a little bit about what Ethan said. Is when you do submit to the competitions, one of the advantages, even if you know your idea isn't very good, I'd encourage you to give it a try because you're going to learn the process, you're going to learn the platform, and it's going to be helpful because when you submit, you're going to get feedback from the judges. All right. And that is I think one of the most valuable things that you can get out of this entire process. Yes, you're going to learn the process. You're going to come to these workshops. You'll learn some things at the workshops, hopefully meet some really good mentors and learn from them. But getting judges' feedback is awesome. You may not like their feedback, but that's okay. You have to hear the bad news sometimes. That's how you improve, right? And Startup Tree, if you enter, everybody has to enter using Startup Tree, but if you create an account on Startup Tree, which again is free and easy to do, it's like creating a LinkedIn account, and you enter using your user account on Startup Tree, it's really easy for us because when it comes time to send out that feedback, we just press a button and the platform will send all that feedback to you from all the judges. So I'd encourage you to do that. Even if you don't enter that way, we still get you the feedback. It's just a big manual process on the back end to do that. So it is, another advantage to getting involved in that. And I don't know, maybe you could talk for just a second. I know we've had problems in past, sometimes getting the feedback back, but how did you find the feedback that you got from judges typically?
I would say feedback's the most valuable thing you can get, hands down. Like more than money, honestly, purely because you'll learn something that others don't know. And that's the most important thing by far. especially if you're trying to do something innovative. The only way to do that is to hear people's feedback. And if you don't like it, that's the most valuable one. That's what I would say is if you don't like hearing it, you should probably think about what they said more and like why, because it's important. Again, like, their perspective is their perspective, same way your perspective is yours. So kind of understanding where yours fits in. I mean, maybe it's not a market for what you're doing, right? Like it's just like kind of narrowing your own thing down a little bit and continuing to fight through the hardest barriers. Usually it's the honesty is sometimes brutal, I would say.
Yeah. So let's go back. So let's go back to the early days. Can you remember what the first idea was that you submitted?
It's a good question. I remember I was working on, before COVID, I was working on open air, I called it. I'm still going to do this one day too. I'm telling you now. It was just like, it was about trying to create an indoor park that allowed you to feel as if you were outside during wintertime. So, in a lot of cities, there's a lot of depression because you can't go outside and there's no green, there's no sun, like that sucks. So I wanted to create a space where people could go to like for co-working. There were shops and, coffee shops all over. You could sit under a tree if you wanted, kind of a thing, as if you were outdoors in bad months. I will do that one day. I tell you that now. That was the first one.
Okay. All right. And then when did you come up with the first version of Agora World? So the working into the virtual world.
I started building in virtual reality in 2019. So January 2019, I guess. My dad brought home a VR headset during my junior year. I played video games my whole life, Call of Duty, Halo, you name it. And so I've got friends I've never met in person before, and that's just normal. And I think in today's world, as you guys know, social media, your online identity is potentially more important than your in-person identity. More people know you online than they do in person. If you count all your followers and friends on Facebook and stuff. So because of that, I thought that the virtual world was going to happen more prominently, especially as technology gets better. So when I tried the VR headset, I was playing this shooting game and I was literally like, I shook hands with somebody and it was weird because it was like, it vibrated. It felt like I did that, and I was actually there. And in my head, it was like, well, how do you create real world experiences that feel as if you were together for the times that you can't be together? Because I have friends that graduated before me. I have family that live all over the world. So, for me, it was for the times you can't be together, how can you create a more human experience? And we started forging through. So the first iteration was a virtual reality shopping platform. So it was like in-store shopping online, where you could pick up a product, you get information, automatic coupons, you could pick it up, throw it against a wall, can't break, it's virtual. So that's pretty good. And then you put in your cart and it will ship to your house, but it was social too. So you could see other people that were there at the same time as yourself. And for reference, I don't know how to code. So if you can't code, that's okay. I have no idea. I still don't.
So you started down this road of creating this virtual retail space, shopping space. And I remember when you first came into the IEI and talked to me about that. And at the time, real potential, right? And you were working really hard on this. And so what happened? Like what caused you to change this? Feedback. I think this is an important part of an entrepreneur's journey.
Yeah, brutal feedback, honestly. That's what happens, right? So I mean, we built that. I'll be honest, not everyone in this building agreed with the idea. I had a lot, it was pre-COVID. So everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? Why do we need to be virtual? Now, obviously, in hindsight, you're like, clearly I need to be online. Not before. So people were like, you're building in VR? Like, what are you thinking? So, again, it's good to hear feedback. And, to an extent, they were right because we built using a VR headset. How many people here have one? Does anyone? 2, for your reference. Very low, right? Low accessibility. That was the #1 piece of feedback. I built it on a technology my friends didn't have. So that was the first piece of feedback, was how do you put it on a device everybody has? Second piece of feedback was they wanted to do more than just shop. There's a lot of things you can do together. Shopping is just one of those things. So we started pivoting to, well, how do we support any experience, no matter what that might be? Education, retail, travel, We've got tours that we do, I mean, you name it, you can do it. And then the third piece of feedback, which was really just my own internal, was that like all the money I made from the coffee selling, I invested into this company to build it. Cause again, I don't know how to code. So I had to hire developers to build it for me. And all I realized was, well, if I had to put, close to my life savings and a decent amount of time into building one use case, just shopping, anybody else like me who has an idea probably needs to do the same thing. So since then, that's why we've been more focused on like what Canva's doing for graphic design is making it so easy a dummy can do it, right? And in my head, it's like, well, how do we make something so easy my grandmom can do it? And have someone like her that can create a social experience that she could share with friends. And if she can do it, anybody can. So it's just using my own experience of finding no solution for myself. Sometimes that's what you have to look at is what problem do you face on a regular basis? And you can never find a solution for it. There's a lot that you probably face that you don't even realize. Just make a list. And if there's no solution that you think makes sense, it doesn't make sense for you, there's a very good chance there's other people that also see the same need that you do. Like your interest, you're never the only one with an interest. There's a lot of people out there. So that would probably be the biggest thing that I gained, was just looking at my own issue, which was we have a platform to build shopping experiences, but I, as a founder, was unable to create a store. So as well, how does somebody create the store for you to then shop in, Yeah, sure. I didn't. I think you build. I think building, like build. I incorporated because my dad's an accountant, so he's pretty legitimate when it comes to this stuff. LLC at first, but we're C Corp now. I think LLC is the best place to start. Helps your taxes, So I would definitely suggest it on that end. You'll have a lot of losses at the beginning if you're the only partner. Benefits you at the end of the day. So I definitely recommend doing LLC. C Corp. I'm not a lawyer, so please don't take my advice literally. I think the most important thing is execution. It's not a legal structure. Like you can have a name on something, but if you're not doing anything, it doesn't matter what the name is. So I would say focus a lot more on, can I solve this, and just execute. And when the time comes that you need a legal structure, you'll know when that time comes. Find Greg and he'll connect you with the person that you need to talk to get that done. That's what I would suggest. Absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of time I was ideating this in classes, like I took Dwight's class, the 100 days to being profitable. We did not make that, by the way. We failed in that aspect. But there was a lot of iteration within that. We were not a legal structure when we were building that. It was just, it's an idea, like you'll know when you get to a point where it's like, this is a business, and that's where you're starting to bring in money. It was a hobby. I was just like, can I build something that'd be cool for me and my friends? And, I thought that I could monetize it, but it was one of those where there's, unfortunately with tech, there was a lot of back end development that had to happen in order for that to occur. I hope that's not the same for you, but.
So Ethan, go ahead.
I went on Upwork. Yeah, he's my co-founder now. We've been working together for 4 years. I got very lucky, I'll be honest. What I'd say is like Startup Tree, I've talked to people on there. LinkedIn, easiest way to get in touch with people. Literally send a message. Everyone answers. It's like 75% hit rate. Seriously. If you just say you're interested in what they do, they'll talk to you no matter who they are. I've talked to people at Google. I talked to the UN yesterday. We've been in active talks with some, and it's all like LinkedIn messages. I kid you not. Everyone's open to talking about themselves. Remember that. So, and not many people ask them about themselves. So everyone likes to brag, right? So you definitely reach out that way. But there's a lot of people like you in other schools that are looking at investigating the same thing. So, I'd say don't just be limited to Temple. I think there's a ton of people here in all of the schools that have a ton of like engineering. There are some great computer science students here, like very, very good. And so like, I honestly, there's probably students that would want to do it for fun to continue developing their own skills, and that's who you should be looking for, is not someone you need to pay. That would be my one thing in hindsight, is I put a lot of money into it to build it, rather than finding somebody that would build it with me, like hand in hand. And obviously that caused a lot of costs. So to minimize, find people that are as passionate as you.
So as I can remember, as you were starting down this road, you were what I would call the solopreneur, right? You were flying solo, but I think you knew all along at some point you needed to bring on partners and needed to build out your team. Maybe talk a little bit about how did you go about that? When did that happen? When did you identify your partners? And did you get lucky on the first shot with a partner?
I mean, the developer, he started as an independent contractor. Now he's a co-founder. He started a year after we started working together, when we pivoted to events. Right after COVID, we were like, wow, everyone's doing virtual events. We can do that. So we pivoted to that. And at that moment, he saw a bigger opportunity because he's always wanted to build a social platform. So I'd say I got very lucky in the sense of what I wanted to build and what he wants to build are one and the same. It's just that my focus is more of how do I give somebody like me the ability to create their own custom event or experience, rather than his, which is just like, I want a place for me and my friends to hang out in, or a platform to hang out on. What was it? Oh, and then team, we ended up hiring more because again, that was it was costly, and it's very time consuming to create on new technology, which again is partially why we're building what we're building, because I don't want anyone else to have to go and hire a 3D developer in order to create their own experience. You should be able to do that yourself. Same way you make a graphic design on Canva. It might suck, but it's better than nothing. It's at least proof of concept, right? So like, we're really trying to be the onboarding ramp where at least you'd be able to test it and see if it works and fail fast before you go and hire a giant team to do something unbelievable and unbelievably custom, right? So we hired because we were building infrastructure mainly. Right now we have 6 people on our team. But yeah, I got lucky, I guess, with the partner thing. I've had to fire friends. Not the easiest thing to do.
Repeat that.
Yeah, I've had to fire friends. That don't work with friends. No, I'm kidding. If you there's nothing wrong about working with friends, but it could also be really bad. Like, hopefully it's not a friend that you would really regret losing as a friend, is what I would say. Yeah.
All right. So back to you developed this idea of doing the virtual retail shopping. You got all this brutal feedback. It looked like that's not going to be the way to go, but you didn't want to really leave the whole virtual world, right? You still felt, I know you felt passionate that that was the future and that's where you wanted to be. So how did you go about the process of pivoting to find your new direction of where this thing needed to go?
I think it was just seeing events everywhere. Like, virtual events for the first 3 months of COVID were freaking everywhere, right? So because of that, I was just like, we can do this way better than Zoom. Like, Zoom is a terrible experience. I mean, you guys have done it for class, right? One person talks at a time. Nobody actually pays attention. You sit on your phone. I did that when I was in class, like, on Zoom. It's not immersive. You don't get that social interaction. You can chat someone, but what kind of social interaction is a chat feature? Like, it's very distant from reality, in my opinion. So I felt, well, we've got the social platform. Retail, the feedback we've been getting is I want to do more than just shop. So how do we, what should we be pivoting to? And events are a wide range of things. So by pivoting to events, we could open ourselves up to doing any type of experience ultimately. So literally, I thought about it for about a day. My gut told me it was the right move, and we did it the next day and pivoted everything. Set a development meeting and rerouted practically everything we were doing. Like 6-hour turnaround. Sometimes when you know is what I'd say. Like, your gut, trust your gut. I make almost every decision off of what my gut says, just because it kind of gets that feeling for you if it's right or wrong. So I'd say, like, in terms of our pivots, almost all of our pivots have been made because my gut is telling me it's the right move to make. And knock on wood, so far, I think my gut has made pretty good decisions. So, yeah.
So as you were working through this process, I know as you entered all these different programs and competitions, I can remember you being at all the workshops and participating in those. But what other kinds of resources did you try to take advantage of? What other things did you find really helpful through that process, either to keep you motivated or to get you information that you didn't have previously, or to help you build connections?
I mean, it was mainly feedback, connections. Connections are all, literally. Remember that, like, connections are all, that's all you need, and you'll do very well in life. So make as many relationships as you can. And I mean genuine relationships, not just like we had a chat 2 years ago at a coffee shop, you know, like it's like make a genuine connection with people. They'll always remember that, truly. And you never know who they might know that, and you might know that they might want to know, like, you know, everything's a web. So relationships are all. I would say that the main reason I submitted to them was because I felt like I learned from the process, just of like when you sit down, like you could have an idea, right? And when you explain it to people, every time you explain it to someone, it's different, right? Because you're always iterating, you're always trying to improve the way you word it, you know, and you get feedback from their eyes of like, do they get it or not, like pretty quickly. And I felt like by writing it, you know, you solidify it to an extent. So it kind of forces you to put it into 500 characters, which is really good, just because you got to have it simple and concise. Otherwise, your mom's not going to have any idea what you're talking about. So you definitely want to, like, I felt like it was very helpful in that. And then I wanted to see if I would win. Honestly, like, did I have a good idea? I never did until last year, I guess. But I think for me, I don't like losing. So I'd say I use that as motivation in itself, of like, they don't know what they're talking about. It's okay. Like, take the feedback, learn from it, keep moving forward towards what I thought the future is going to look like.
And what was your primary source of feedback? Like, I mean, I know there was the competition, but did you take advantage of the mentoring? Or
I took advantage of the mentoring a lot. Yeah, I still have two advisors on my team are from what I was connected to here, Harvey Hoffman and Stephen Buerkel. Both of them are still on my board. I talk to them every month. So they've been very helpful. You know, I think, especially when you're doing something new, there's always going to be people that will tell you, you know, why are you doing that? That's just the reality of the situation. So I'd say the main feedback that we got, even last year, so, you know, some of the judges were just like, this is not going to happen. Like, this isn't needed, kind of a thing, until we've refined our message enough to realizing that what the goal is to lower the barrier to entry and make something, you know, no code as easy as possible for anyone. And that people kind of get a little bit more, because no one's ever built a world. Most people, at least, haven't built a virtual world, but they make presentations all the time. So what if you could make that simpler, you know? And I think that we've kind of gotten our message down based on the feedback of the areas that people didn't understand, in order to kind of clean it up and get to the point where people get it a little bit more. Yeah, you know, people don't trust technology. People don't always look to the future. Like, just because you're told that they don't think that it's the right move doesn't mean it's not the right move.
So as you were going through these processes, you know, these repeatedly entering the competition and talking to mentors and getting this feedback and all, can you recall some things that may have been surprising to you, things that really shocked you in this journey?
I mean, back in 2019, when I was submitting, like right before COVID, it shocked me how many people didn't think the virtual world was coming. So, like, looking back on that, I think it's funny, because they kind of got shown 3 months later that the virtual world was going to hit them in the face, and stay forever. You know, it's not going to go away. Hybrid reality is the net. You know, you can't always be in person. Just plain and simple. We have global communities at this point. So it's more about, in my head, it's not about how you replace reality, but how do you make the digital world as close to an experience as reality is, so that for the moments you can't be together or there in person, you still get that presence and that fluid social interaction. So, I mean, I think it just shocked me that people didn't think this was coming. I didn't expect COVID. I'll be honest. That was not lucky in one way, lucky for what we're working on in another way, in a terrible sense. But, you know, it wasn't expected. I thought it would be more gradual than that. take longer, but yeah.
So I'm going to, from my estimation, I'm going to say maybe about 18 months ago or so, it seems like to me, you got a big break because you got selected, you and your platform got selected by Philly startup leaders, by Comcast, to do some events for them, which was a big milestone. And I think really provided validation for you that people, organizations like that with that kind of reputation were willing to take the risk and give it a shot. And I know for me, my experience, I was on those platforms and participated in those events and found them really interesting. You mentioned one of the things about connections being such a strong point, have to make connections and all. And I would translate that and use the word networking. I think a lot of entrepreneurs shortchange how important networking is to build out your network. You need a support system. This is a long, hard road. And that's why you need people around you in your network, right? That can provide help, references, connections, support. And just as an example of that, I remember that night on your platform, I met 4 people that were in the virtual world. And all 4 of those people turned out to be people that I invited as guest speakers to come to our Startup Studio Summer Accelerator program. And I would never have met those people if I hadn't been at that event and just casually networking. Also met
them.
What?
Ran into them.
Yeah, and also met your brother at that event. So tell us a little bit about that. What was that like? That first experience of working with like with the Comcast and hosting an event? And
a lot of fun. I like seeing it being used. That's my favorite, is seeing other people use it. Honestly, it feels great to me to know that I've empowered others to be able to do the thing that I couldn't do. And now I can do it too, which is a lot of fun. So I would say it's just really good to see other people moving around, networking, walking with their friend. Like we held, let's see, we've done Philly Tech Week 2021 and 2022. We've done events with Independence Blue Cross, Comcast, Temple's doing a class with it right now, using it as a creator tool because it is a 3D creation platform. So you can build from scratch. And we're doing events, hopefully IEI and 10 Accelerator moving forward. Trying to think, Penn's using it. We're talking to sports teams about doing concerts as well. So like live, so you can actually go virtually and experience it the same way as if you were in person. So like all of those things. And just every time for me, it's like looking at something that I've always wanted to do and like have access to, but sometimes you can't make it to the event. Sometimes you can't afford the ticket because it's $300 to go see Travis Scott or whatever it is that you want to do. So having it available right there with the click of a finger and it feels like you're there, to me, like that's just seeing it come to life, I guess, would be the beauty, because I've had a lot of people tell me it wasn't possible and that it wouldn't be true. So seeing a lot of people love it and want to continue doing more and have their own ideas of how they could use it, to me is actualizing imagination is a lot of fun, because there's no wrong answer. You can do anything you want. You can do anything. We had an event 2 weeks ago on a Mars base that we designed using 3D models from NASA. And we filled it with satellites and rovers and habitat design, SpaceX rockets of like, what would it look like if I was there? And build an art museum that you could climb up to the sky and overlook the galaxy. And there were images and videos going in chronological order of like our history of studying the stars. And like, that was really cool. That was a ton of fun, because when could you ever go to Mars? Not many, maybe one of us. I mean, I hope you do. I signed up to go, but I didn't get picked. But, not many of us are going to have the opportunity to go to somewhere like that. So to me, it's not even just like the real life experiences that you can't make it to. Like for those watching on Zoom right now, what if they could be next to you? What if you could interact with them and they could interact with you, even though they're not here? Like, to me, those are a lot of fun questions to try to solve, just because I feel like it will be really good to connect the global community that we are. I would say that would be, that would be the most fun of it.
So I only have a couple more questions, and then we'll open it up for all of you out there if you have questions you want to ask. So the hard one is, what did you, thinking back on this and all these different programs, what are some of the key milestones, the key takeaways that you've learned from doing this, from this whole experience? And it may be, directly related to your your business, or it may be just related to the personal experiences of what you went through from all this?
I mean, the first learning is it is not easy. I work 90 hours a week. I'm not saying that's what you need to do, but I work 90 hours a week. It's not easy. Does it feel like 90 hours? No, because I love what I do. So like that would be what I'd say. Like, if you don't like what you do, you're not going to do great at it. Just stop right now and do something you love. I'll be completely honest. It'll be a lot easier to get up in the morning. I enjoy waking up and going to work because it doesn't feel like it. I like what I do. So that'd be my number one feedback, honestly, just because if you don't love it, I guarantee the other person trying to solve the same problem, they love it and they'll go to the end of the earth to make it happen. So like, not every day is a good day. Some days are great. Other days suck. It's like a roller coaster. That's life. So I'd say the ones that win are not necessarily the ones with the best ideas, but they're the ones that are most persistent. Like, they're the ones that can bear the most bad days. Plain and simple. They've made it through more bad days and not quit than anybody who failed along the way, because they quit. You know, if you run out of money, I guess, you know, you decide at that point you were going to quit. Like that's just how it is. So if you love what you do, you'll go a lot further than anybody else, truly, because all of them will fail along the way. And as you have your bad day, you just got to remember that your competitors, other people trying to do this, they also had that bad day, or they will have that bad day. And if you get through it, 90% of them drop off every time you have a bad day. That's just the way it works. So, you know, you'll end up getting closer and closer to being one of the few that's really solving that problem. So that would probably be my number one piece of advice. The second thing I would say is I did not expect that we'd be building this. Like when I started, like if you have an idea now, it doesn't mean that's what you're going to do. I think it's, again, it's about learning as you go, and you'll figure it out as you go, because that's the only way to succeed, you know? So I would just say, go with the flow, like enjoy the process as you can, and definitely love what you do more. Because again, your competitor is working when you're not. They are up at night trying to beat you and pummel you into the ground, you know, and you should want to do the same to them, honestly. Like that's, you know, it's business, I guess.
Can you think of anything that along this process that you would have done differently?
Done differently. Before I say that, I do want to say I actually love my competitors. That would be the one other thing I'd say. Truly, I do. Anytime they do something that I think is innovative or different, I applaud them. There's, you know, why would I hate them for doing it? Like, it was a great idea. I'd say I learn the most from them, because you see what they're doing right, you see what sucks. You can very quickly see what is not good when you look at their platform. And when you look at enough of them and they all stink at a same area, there's probably an opportunity there, in all seriousness. So I learn a lot from them. And I genuinely love them because I learn a lot from them. And I think that collaboration is key. So, you know, we work with a lot of our competitors. I've had calls with the founder of Rec Room, VR chat. I was at Rec Room's headquarters in Seattle, actually back in March. You know, and like, so we know all of those guys, they know us, everyone, in all honesty, it's, you know, people, it's an open conversation of where should the future go, you know? And I would say that while we're all competing, it's the virtual world in itself, and maybe it's just our space, it's a big neighborhood. There's a lot of different types of people and use cases for this one thing. And because of that, I think that it's an open ocean where people are kind of exchanging ideas and thoughts and seeing where we overlap and what areas could we help, you know, help them and they could help us. Like there's plenty of things like that. So I would say don't hate your competitors, definitely love them in the sense of like learn from them. Yeah, hatred is strong.
I want to echo something about that. So I've had a couple of conversations with Ethan over time where he's mentioned to me about a new competitor he identified and how he had set up a call with them and he was going to be talking to them in a day or two. And I was looking at him and go, what? And he'd say, yeah, I'm gonna get on the phone. I'm gonna talk to them. I'm gonna see what they're doing, what they're up to, what they're having problems with. And I was always very impressed by that. I think that shows a certain level of maturity that is phenomenal for your age, because people think about this. You can learn a lot more from talking to your competitors than by ignoring them.
Well, you learn their focus and you learn yours, you know? So like everyone, you stay in your own lane. do 30 things at once. You know, like most people look at the metaverse right now and they're like Web3 and crypto and NFTs and blockchain and virtual worlds. And it's like, choose one. Like, why are you doing 10 things at once for? Because it's a hype word. Like, pick your lane and be really, really good at that. Like that's key. So, you know, talking to our competitors, we realize things that they are focused on that we're not, and we're really focused on solving this problem that they're not. So there's potential synergies moving forward. And then you realize it's not really a competitor, it's really more of a collaborator at the end of the day. There's a lot of integrations. Everyone is integrated. Remember that. Everything can be exported to something else. That's just how it is. Our space, you can't do that yet. So why is that? You know, it's because most people didn't want to work together in the past. So hoping we can learn from that. I will say I sign up for a demo with any competitor I see with a fake email, 100%. Hop on that call, act like you're someone else. I'm Brett. What's going on? It's nice to meet you. And test their tool. You know, everyone's open to talking. Again, especially if you sign up as having interest. Trying things is definitely the best way to learn.
Yeah, the term to remember is called co-opetition. Right.
And remember that in the 90s when Apple almost failed, Bill Gates was the #1 investor and saved them. Why would he do that if they were competing with Apple? Again, just throwing that out there of like, not always are they competitors, given that you're competing for space. So at the end of the day, you need to make sure you're kind of like pummeling their face into the ground to an extent. Like that's, again, it's business, but there's a lot of ways you could work together and learn from each other that I think is way more valuable than anything else.
All right, maybe to close out just in terms of the competition goes. So if there's any advice that you have for people that are thinking about entering the competition, what advice would that be?
I'd say do it. Like if you have an idea, just put it on paper. In all, like I don't think there's anything better than just getting it down. You'll learn really quickly once it's on paper if it sounds good or not. At least it gives you, even if you don't submit the idea, I suggest you do for reference. But you know, even if you choose not to, it's a good process to get it down on paper, because then at least you have a rough draft that you could show a friend and say, what do you think of this idea? And they'll rip you a new one. That's what friends are for. And that's what the mentors and the feedback is for the competition. So I do think it's just a great process in itself to learn. And I've submitted with many ideas, so this won't be the last that you do. But I'd say just learn from it. Thank you. So definitely, yeah, highly recommend just doing it, like get in. And you said what was one thing I'd change, right?
Yeah, if there was something you would do differently.
I mean, again, I think I went about it the wrong way at first. I did not pre-sell what I built originally, and that's why we built the wrong thing. That would be the #1, like that would be the thing I'd change, is that talk to potential customers before you build it. Trust me, it will save you a lot of time and pain and money. I'll emphasize that one. You know, I built a shopping one because I thought that it was a cool experience I'd want to share. And then after I realized wrong device, so wasted that money, we had to switch. Not just that use case, right? Stores aren't ready. They don't have 3D content. I could have learned that by asking them. They didn't have 3D models yet. Now they do. They didn't before. So I could have learned that pretty quickly. Like I think it's very important to get it on paper, purely because then you can go and talk to people about it, you know? So I suggest selling the idea first. Doesn't mean you have to have money in your pocket. It just more means go talk to the potential customer. And if a decent percentage of them are looking at you like, I would do that. If that was available right now, I'd do that, right? Then you have a business. Congratulations, go build it. But at least then you have validation before you're blowing your time and money into building it. That would be the big difference.
Yeah, I'll share something else as well. Occasionally, and usually a couple times every year, I get students or alums that come up and they'll say to me, you know, we'll talk about sharing your idea. We'll talk about talking to mentors, and there's concern. You know, I get the question, you know, well, you know, I don't want to tell anybody my idea. What if they steal my idea? And I tell them, you know, you should be so lucky that your idea is that good, somebody would want to steal it.
No one will steal it either. Again, it goes back to, do you love it enough? If it's a good idea and they don't love it, they're really not stealing it.
No,
because they won't execute anywhere close to as good as you will at the end of the day. They'll quit well before you. My dad always said, if you can't put it on a billboard, don't do it. Because at the end of the day, it's all about execution. Can you do it better than the other people trying to do it? However many people, how many, like there's no idea that you have has not been thought about before, is what I would say. And if you do have an idea that no one's thought of, like, I am extremely impressed, because everyone's had a thought or a blip that they never wrote down, you know? So I would just say, like, it's already on a billboard for those looking for it. So I wouldn't really be afraid to share. I'd be more curious what feedback other people have for me on the idea that you have, so you can make your idea better than anyone else's.
Yeah, you keep your idea in the dark, it'll never grow, right? You got to share it out, get that feedback. That's the way ideas grow. That's the way they evolve. All right, why don't we throw it open for questions? Yep. Here.
Sell your ideas to businesses as well?
We are B2B.
Yeah.
We don't sell to consumers. The businesses that we sell to their consumers. So like we again, like our platform is meant to create. So our focus is on businesses where like our goal is to have 1 million businesses building in the metaverse within 18 months. Are we there yet? No, nowhere close, but you know, time will tell if we can actually get there by lowering the barrier to entry. So I would, yeah, like businesses are supposed to be building on our tool. We want them to create experiences for their community and their customer base, who then come and would purchase things from that brand or that business.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
You touched on doing what you love, and I think that's super important when it comes to ideation. And so I'm just wondering how, once you get some compensation from your passion, how do you not lose that? How do you stay rooted in your initial purpose and vision?
I've never paid myself $1 for reference. Any dollar that's ever come in has gone to my team. I am all in. So how do you stay focused, knowing that I have to do what I got to do to make sure I can pay myself one day, honestly. Like we're always building, plain and simple. I think that the purpose at the core is key. Like, does anyone know Simon Sinek? Right? Like, I highly recommend looking up the video Start With Why. Great video, great book too. And it's literally just about starting with why. Like, the what is cool, the how, yeah, it matters, but why are you doing what you do? That's the hardest question to always ask, and it's also the hardest one to answer for a reason. So I would definitely, oh, awesome. I didn't even realize. So I would absolutely suggest like looking into that. But I think the way that as you're saying, like, yes, you have a lot of successes, right? So we've had a lot of successes in areas, and we've still pivoted since, right? So we originally built our tool to do events with like a very simple no-code tool. And then since then, we continued to pivot to build an even more advanced no-code creation tool, because I saw the need, even though, you know, our customers were asking for it. I mean, so the purpose, like, it's a good question. You just got to keep asking yourself it. Like, keep making sure that you're like, is what I'm doing for that purpose? Like, are you solving it? Like, money is not all. I've always been told that the more value you create for the world, the more value you have. So as long as you stay focused on solving the problem at hand, you will, you know, and create value for others, you will always have value at the end of the day. So I'd say that's mainly how I stay focused on at least like the why are we doing this? Yeah, shiny objects are shiny objects.
You can tell Ethan's obviously passionate about his solution, but I want to point out, if you take notice to what he's talking about, he's always talking about the problem. So he's in love with the problem, right? I mean, you are. You
Love the problem, not the solution. Yeah, I've had many solutions that suck for a certain problem, but it's true. It's true. Some solutions are not meant to solve the problem. They're not really solutions at all. So I like the problem at hand, which is how do you connect people in a more real way digitally? And every day I ask myself, how can I make that increasingly more human and more real and feel more alive? without getting rid of this experience. You know, the fact that we could all be here in person shouldn't get, just because we have a computer or VR headset doesn't mean we should get rid of it. It's just about, well, when we're here, what about those that couldn't? Like, how can they be a part of it? Again, like I love, as he said, I love the problem. Like, definitely stay focused on the problem and you'll never lose sight of what you need to do.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Yeah.
This is a very specific question, but how were you able to provide value to Independence Blue Cross to the extent that they now sponsor you?
Yeah, so Independence Blue Cross used it for their BPHL Innovation Festival. They were digital, right, for COVID. They ended up going back fully in person in 2021. Not many people were really interested in person as much. And they had people from around the globe that went to the one that was virtual. So I reached out and said, what are you doing for the virtual people? They said nothing. I said, okay, can I host the social experience to bring people together virtually? And they said yes, and ended up hiring us to help them build a digital twin of Philadelphia. Literally, it looks like Philadelphia, which is pretty awesome. So you can go to City Hall, you can go in the Art Museum. We ended up for Philly Tech Week 2022. We have the Art Museum, Independence Hall, City Hall, and then the Citizens Bank Park under City Hall in the subway station. The Philly Indie Film Festival created a bar, like an underground bar, and a movie theater and jazz club where you could go listen to live music as well as watch a movie from the film festival with other people, all in real time. We had 5 continents come. You can't do that for an in-person event.
Yeah, I mean, the platform's come a long way, even from when I was first on it 18 months ago, and met these people walking around this big, basically convention space, right? And you had actually put artwork in there, and there was artwork that was up and that was for sale, and it was a very cool experience, and very non-threatening. I mean, you know, a lot of people, we keep talking about the importance of networking as an entrepreneur, but a lot of people don't know how to network, and they don't like it. And even for me, and I've been doing it for many years, you know, sometimes it gets really stressful, and this is a really cool way to network.
No camera, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what your background looks like. It's way easier, honestly. We honestly, so we held a career fair a little while back, and the #1 piece of feedback we got was that they felt more comfortable as an avatar, purely because they said that they felt like they weren't, that their connection was being judged on the experience that they shared and the conversation they had, rather than what you look, you know, most people, you look at the shoes, you look at the hair, you look at the background, and you make an assumption, and that will end up judging a lot more. Just in, like, you know, the first impression means more than anything else. So when the first impression is that conversation and experience, we've actually found that it's a lot more open, and a lot more inclusive for anybody, honestly. So that's been a huge benefit. And I mean, one thing I also just want to throw out there, like, it is free to build your own world. If you want to try, I will send over training stuff and videos. We host an event every week where our community can come together to build collaboratively. This week, we're building a conference expo, I think, that will be used in an event next week. So, you know, I think we built a concert venue a couple of weeks ago, built a shopping mall a few weeks back, built a yacht club, which is pretty cool, right on a lake, at a nice house and a big boat. No helicopter yet, that's coming. So, I mean, it's really just like, you can do anything. So I'd say same way you make a presentation right now, like a 2D portfolio for your artwork. If you're an art student, come build a 3D gallery, put your images up. You know, I'd say like that, we want to learn from you just as much as anybody else. So keep learning, like, you're never really done.
Any final questions? No? Well, thank you, Ethan, for coming. I mean, it's been great. It's been a long journey, a rewarding one for me to be able to watch you and your success and your growth, and you know, Agora World has come so far and just has so much more potential. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you all could make it as well tonight, and I hope you'll consider joining and entering the Innovative Idea Competition. But thank you to Ethan.
Thank you.